Who am I? Well, I'm Liana Allison. I'm an empathic leadership coach. I have an international award through the Stevie's Business and Women Award in America. And I run the Institute of Empathic Leadership. Now, I've been doing many things in my personal growth life, my training to teach and help people in their own personal growth. And so I'm a spiritual teacher, empathic intuitive, a wife, a mum, and a businesswoman. So I've got many feathers in my cap, and I use all of those to actually really help people as best I can in their own journey in life, because we all have hiccups along the way, and every now and then we need help. I have many times asked for help, and it has helped me to move forward in my life and so much more efficiently. So I've had lots of training in the field of relationship and communication. So as a life coach, one of the really important things is to be able to communicate effectively, to be able to communicate what you truly mean in a way that can be heard. And the other side of it is to listen. So to be able to listen to what people are saying and to understand. So you're listening to understand rather than listening to answer, which is a big issue in some people have. They get caught up with what they're going to say in answer to someone else's comment and don't actually really take in the meaning of that comment. So I've spent about 30 years of my life figuring out how I can be really authentic in my relationships. And tonight we're focusing on communication. So I've learnt so much just in how I communicate in my personal relationships, my business relationships, with friends, with family. It's all comes down to certain key points which we will look at. So I could have filled this webinar with a whole heap of tools and tips that you can actually just Google on the internet and find them all. For example, if you've got an important question or statement to make it work, prepare yourself in advance. Prepare what you're going to say. Prepare how you feel. All of these tips about, you know, all those practical steps that can really get you through those immediate situations, they're fantastic, but you can find them anywhere. So what I wanted to do is actually go to a deeper level. I wanted to take us to a level where we actually can see what's causing the actual communication issue from our perspective. Now, we can never actually really influence anybody else, so we have to think about what is our influence and how can we be responsible for that. So let's go deep and let's really dig in. I would prefer to actually go into the really deep subconscious patterning rather than just use the Band-Aid tools to cover them up for a certain period of time, because they always come back. So let's go and sort them out really, really well now. So look at some common issues in relationship communication. So just notice which one of these feel like it's a part of your way of being. How do you relate to each one of these? And just take a mental note. So one of them is avoiding confronting communication. Now, I know I've done that in the past where I've just about turned myself inside out trying to avoid having to talk about something that I found really confronting, especially my personal relationships with my partner. And it's something I've really had to work hard on and learn how to do. Another one is being unable to listen to a communication without feeling judged or judging them. Now, quite often you'll see in this communication that we may not think that we're judging them, but at some deep level we may be. And if we're judging them, we're also judging ourselves. And we'll go into all of this quite a bit deeper. The next one is feeling the need to stay calm in communication. Now, that's a big one for a lot of people. They assume that, you know, if we're going to communicate about something really deep, we can't have emotion boiling up and taking over. You know, that would be very uncomfortable. Also, having expectation of a certain outcome of a communication is a precursor to really not having the authentic communication of listening and speaking truth. We'll look at that one, of course. And getting stuck in the support role when people or friends are expressing an issue in their life. Now, there's a lot of women out there who do this. They get stuck in having to be the support for someone who's going through something traumatic or emotional in their life. The next one is turning into a fix-it person. So not only do you end up in a support role, quite often you can be the one who really has the need to fix the issue. Like if someone's going through a really, let's call it a really bad breakup in their relationship or something like that, you might be the one who feels like you have to make them feel better, which depletes you and quite often doesn't help them, because they don't need to just feel better, they actually need to learn. So one more is being unable to speak the right words when having intense communication. So you know that feeling when you go blank and you just don't know what to say. You know what you say, what you want to say before you go into the communication, but you reach that point where it all just goes blank, and you know, your brain starts to just overwhelm itself. So can you think of any others that you would add into that list that's significant for you? And you can just pop that in the Q&A box if you wish, and it might help other people out as well if you can think of anything else. Or if they resonate you, just pop in there, yes, that does resonate. Okay, so with those being some of the common issues, how to take responsibilities for your side of those issues. Okay, so yes, we have people who definitely resonate with those characteristics that we've seemed to manage to develop over our lifetime. So those very common issues. So let's look at how we can actually take responsibility for our side of these issues, because if we can do that, what that does is it puts you in the driver's seat. So if you're not a victim to someone else needing someone else to be a certain way to have good communication, then you are in charge. And I don't know if you've heard of the old saying, those who ask the questions are the ones that are in charge of a communication or a discussion. So if you take responsibility for how you feel in these uncomfortable communications, then you're the one who can make a change. And quite often it's past events, your past events in your life, that trigger you in these different communication issues. So that's where we need to look at what's going on for you under the surface, so that you can really take that on, learn from it, and then be able to choose how to do that style of communication in a different way that actually serves you. So let's go through. So no one can make you feel anything you don't choose to at a very deep level. So what that means is, as I said, your emotions are your emotions. And those emotions can be triggered by those past events. And it's not always the immediate communication that causes you to get triggered. It's history that's stored in your subconscious mind that is activating some emotional stress or mental stress that's going on. So self-responsibility is your emotional mastery. So that's the key to true freedom. If you can actually have this emotional mastery within your pocket, when you want to do this sort of communication, then you're in charge, as I said, and that's the key basically to so many things in your life to help you in business, help you to step up. This emotional mastery that I talk about is actually the #1 characteristic that successful entrepreneurs have. So there's a lot of you out there that want to be successful entrepreneurs, and this is a good starting point. So if we look at my next slide, the question is, do you avoid confronting communication? Now, if you do, quite often it can be, because confronting communication can be when people get emotional with you. So that just means they might get angry, they might get sad, they might feel hurt, whatever it might be. We have to get to know that emotion within ourselves so that we can be really comfortable when someone else is expressing it. Now let's take anger, for example. If you don't like anger, then you're not going to like confronting communication. Because quite often if it's confronting, then someone is reacting. And if someone's reacting, quite often the first thing that comes up is anger. And even if they don't express it fully, it's still there and you can still feel it. So you'll still get triggered. So anger is one of those things that we need to actually work with. Now I'm going to flick through these quickly and just give you a synopsis, and then I'm going to go through them with a bit more detail. So, unable to listen to a communication without judgment. This is, as I said, quite often self-judgment. So, or you could have strong ideas of how the communication should be. You have expectations, and that expectations, someone told me once, expectations is the killer of joy. So if you've got expectations, you're not open to the broad array of opportunities that might be there. And that just puts you in a very small box that you're stuck in. So those expectations can close in on you and keep you very narrow-minded. And also, quite often for some people, it can be because everything has to be all about me. I know everyone knows somebody who's like that. And if it's all about me, then there's a great deal of judgment going on in that scenario. So if you're one of the ones who need that, feel that calm in the communication, it's usually a fear of emotion. It's usually a fear of how you will react when other people express some sort of emotion. So you have the inability to respond in that highly emotive situation. In actual fact, you will probably react. So that's another key for that particular one. If you want to stay calm, it means you don't like emotions. Now, when I say these things, these obviously are very broad generalizations. So if you have particular situations, please pop them into the question box or even into the chat box so that all of these things can be included in what I talk to you about. Okay, so expectations is another one where you might be stuck in it's in my way or the highway, and that is comes from a place of maybe insecurity. Maybe you've had to be in control a lot, so you feel like you need to control things, and you're not open to actually finding a new way. So if you want to have a certain expectation and how something will end up, you're really not open to changing and finding a new way of expressing, or finding a new way of getting a win-win. One of the things about finding a new way, there has to be a certain amount of sacrifice. Now, I don't mean sacrifice in a way that is really detrimental to you, but in a personal relationship, you have to be able to have some sort of sacrifice going on so that you can step into a way of being that allows two people to come together as a partnership. That means compromise and sacrifice has to be a part of it, but it's not to your detriment. It's just a new way. If you're really uncomfortable with being wrong, then this one, the expectation one, will really kick in. Okay, now we get to the one about the support role, where if a friend is going through something and you end up in that support role, quite often it's because you're just nice. Like, nice, and you want to help and you just want to be there for them, which is fantastic. But if you're doing it to your detriment, then you're being too nice. And what that does is it saps your energy and you start to feel drained, and you start to also feel a little bit of resentment deep down inside, because quite often it's all about them and you don't actually get any reciprocal time to actually have your say in life or in this friendship. So that comes down to clearing up your personal values and acting on your boundaries. Now, if you turn it into a fix-it person, then this is getting into your sense of values. So your sense of value, if you want to fix something, whether it's a person, a situation, or even a thing, it could be, oh, I'll fix the car, it's okay, I'll do it. That is an external validation pattern. So you're looking externally to be needed, to be valued from your actions, communication, what you've got to say in Mr. or Mrs. Fix-It. Okay. Yes, there's someone who does do that. If I have the ability to help, you certainly do. Yep. Fixing it is good, as long as it's not draining and you're doing it from your values. It's fantastic. So if you don't have the ability to speak the right words or the words that you want to in a communication, then, and you freeze up mentally. So when the stress is on, you turn inwards and you go into your feelings, and you can't find the words to express what it is that you're feeling. And this is really common for really sensitive empaths and deep feelers. And we'll go into all of this a lot deeper. And we're going to do that now. So if you have any questions about that so far, please pop them into the Q&A box. If not, let's just keep on going. So the actions to change your activation of these issues. So in the first one, avoid confronting communication. As I said, it was about anger. So what we need to access is to be able to use the anger. We need to have anger in our life and have access to it, so that we can actually be really creative and proactive in our life. So anger has a very useful energy that is passionate, it's creative, and it's proactive. Now, if you get used to using this anger, then your life steps up a notch. So if you're avoiding confronting communication because of anger, then there's a bet that there will also be a part of your life that's actually really stuck. And we can work through that by learning how to really connect in with your anger and use it as an energy. So instead of judging it as bad, we learn how to use it. The next one is, if you're unable to listen without judgment, if you're judging something external of you, then you've got something really deep to learn about whatever that external thing is, whether it's something somebody says, whether it's how they say it. And if you're judging it as wrong or bad, then you've got a huge lesson to learn about that. And that is a really key thing for you to then be able to step into your power around this style of communication. Yes, someone probably does this all the time. It's great to recognize it. Maybe you just don't accept that part within yourself. Whatever you see externally, maybe you're not accepting that of you. Or it reminds you maybe of an old event that has happened where you did not feel safe, where something happened where you felt hurt or neglected or whatever it might be. If there's a past event that this communication style is reminding you of, then it's quite likely that whatever is caught up in that past event emotionally and mentally is going to come up and re-trigger you. So a lot of these triggers are actually coming from your past. And that's okay, because all we need to do is actually recognize it and work with it. Okay. So if it is coming from the past and you're getting triggered, that means you're also not grounded in the moment. And that's something that we will talk about. So if you need to stay calm in this communication issue, whatever the issue is that's going on, then as I said just now, being grounded is a really important part, and being grounded brings you back into the present. So if you need to feel calm and you're not able to, it's because of your past memories, events, patterns, beliefs, whatever it might be. The judgment of how you felt in that time and the emotions around that will say, okay, so I'm not allowed to be like that, so I'm going to stay really calm. But you can't. It's only, you might appear calm on the surface, but underneath you're in turmoil. And you have to be able to admit that. You have to be able to say to yourself, I'm actually feeling really out of my depth right now, and I need to look at what's going on. Now, if we look at how we can stay in the moment and not bring the past into our communication, then you will actually, all you need to do in the immediate is to really ground yourself. So I just want to give you an exercise to do that you can practice, so when you're actually in this uncomfortable situation, within a couple of breaths, you can ground yourself and actually come back into your body so that you can think and clear what it is that's going on. So someone said that they, if people get hysterically angry, I seem to match it. And that's what happens. Like when an energy comes up, our first instinct is to go straight into that energy and match it. But if you've got two angers going at each other, that gets really messy. But if you've got an angry person who's really projecting onto someone who can stay really disconnected from it, then the anger just passes through. It's got nothing to push up against. So it's not like two bulls hitting their heads together. It's like a bull going straight through the matador's cape, and it's got nothing to stop it. It just goes straight through. So that's why it's so important for us to own our own emotional stuff, our own emotional patterns and triggers, so that we can be the matador's cape and everything can flow straight through and we don't actually get hurt by any of it, but we can see it really, really clearly and learn from it. So the exercise in regard to being grounded is basically all you need to do is close your eyes, and you can do this now. Just close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in through your nose. And as you breathe in, you imagine the air and the energy is coming through the top of your head. And as you breathe out through your nose, it's traveling down through your body and through your feet into the earth below you. And just take another deep breath in through your nose, like channeling the energy down through your body, breathing out, down through your legs and into the earth beneath you. And just one more big breath, breathing down through your body, and as you breathe out, breathing down through your legs and your feet down into the earth. Now you'll find yourself feeling a lot more solid in your body. So play with that and really allow yourself to be really centered, because this is where you can truly feel what's going on and your brain doesn't take over as much. So this is something that you need to practice if you want to get really good at it. And that way, when you need it, all you need to do is take one big breath in and you can be grounded in the moment. And as Amanda said, these patterns get passed down through our families. Yes, they definitely get passed down, because, you know, what you see in your past, what you see around you as a child, is what you actually think is normal. So it gets into your subconscious mind, and when you put into a similar situation that you saw, you will respond in the same way. So you think you're responding through what you know, which you are, but it's unconscious knowing. It's not a choice. It's what the subconscious is saying. Oh yes, that's what we got to do now. Let's do that. Rather than going, wow, look at this situation. How do I choose to respond in this situation? So family patterning is very, very strong in a lot of people. And as soon as we recognize it, then we've got the first step of actually changing it, making a different choice. Okay. So we have an expectation of a certain outcome in communication. So if we have preconceived expectations of a particular outcome, then we're already putting ourselves in a box. We're putting ourselves into a control mechanism, a dominant energy. That energy is not an open, inquiring energy. It's an energy that says, well, this is how it happens. This is what you should do. And this is how we should be dealing with this situation with how we speak. And all that does is make the other person feel like they're not being listened to, not important, and don't have anything of value to add that may be new. That's a recipe for disaster for any sort of open communication, and that will always end up in someone feeling like they are not valued at all, feel like they're being judged, feel like they've been unimportant and insignificant. And no one likes to feel like that. So we really have to look at our style if that's happening with you, with your style. If someone's doing it to you, then in recognizing it, you can then verbalize how it makes you feel and how they could be different so that it could be an open, more win-win communication. So this isn't just about what we do. If this is happening with other people to us, we still have to take responsibility for how we respond, whether we are stating our values and our boundaries clearly, saying, no, that's not okay, but without emotional drama behind it. Okay, what else we got? So if we get stuck in the support role, that's actually a really clear lack of clarity around your personal values, because being in a support role is nothing wrong with that. But if you're stuck in it and you feel like you've got no option, then that means you're not valuing yourself. It also means if you're not clear on what your personal values are, then you are unable to stand strong in your boundaries. And for quite often, people in this situation will just say yes. When people ask them to do something, they'll just go, yeah, okay. And then later on go, oh, I actually really didn't want to do that, but that just came out. So that's what I mean about the boundaries. Your boundaries about saying no more often and yes more often to yourself. Now that will keep you with the availability of moving out of a support role when you choose. So it doesn't mean you can't support people. It just means that it's a really conscious decision and it's what you really want. Hope that is clear for you. Now let's look at the Mr. Fix-It. I always say Mr. Fix-It, but it could be Mrs. Fix-It, because there's plenty of us around as well. Okay. As I said earlier, if you're in a fix-it mold, then you're in a external validation mold. So you're looking to feel good about yourself by what you do outside of yourself, whether it's for someone else or, well, it's usually always for somebody else, but whether it's actually trying to fix how they feel, trying to fix a situation that they're in, trying to fix a physical thing that's going on. This is a very deep drive within because you're not feeling great about yourself. And so that external validation is unconscious. Now, there's nothing wrong with external validation if it's conscious. If it's unconscious and it's a pattern, then you're giving away your power and you're never going to feel good about yourself in that situation. So in that particular style, it's about making a different choice. It's about making a choice that will support you as well as the other person if you wish, but it has to be a win-win situation. Now let's look at this one, because this one is really interesting, because this is what a lot of Kelly has to put the kids to bed. No worries, Kelly. Thank you for being on so far. You'll get the recording, so that's fantastic. So if you're a sensitive empath, now what that means is, do you feel deeply? Do you feel other people's emotions? Do you feel your own emotions very deeply? Do you speak in a way where I feel like this, or that makes me feel? If you do that, that's a key to you being emotionally based. That would be your highest characteristic in how you are. A lot of people say, I think I feel this. I think this may happen. They're more of a mind-based person. So if you're in that category of being an empath, where you feel other people's or you feel your own emotions, and you get caught up in other people's emotions, then it's very difficult for you to stay grounded in yourself when a confronting communication is happening or is required to happen. And I've done this myself in the past. I've had to talk to somebody about something, and we started a conversation, and you can bet your bottom dollar within minutes, my brain had gone completely blank, and I couldn't think of the reasons why I was having the conversation. I couldn't think of any valid points I was trying to make. And in the end, I would give up and just go, oh, it doesn't matter, and walk off, until later, where I was hugely resentful, because then I remembered everything when I started to calm down a bit. Now, if this is the case, this is very much about you learning to value your emotional state, learning to value what it gives you and how you can use it to actually make your communication even deeper and more powerful. Because that's what we all want, isn't it? To have that really deep communication so that we can connect with people. And feeling-based people always want to connect with people. And it's difficult to do that if we can't get through this hurdle. So this is it's not a one-stop fix for any of this. This is a lifelong journey of learning and of understanding yourself, your emotions, and how they can really work well for you. It's what we all really want out of life, and it's really that true authenticity and that deepest connection that we desire, right down deep inside of us, that in our hearts. It's what we're all craving, and the only way to do that is to have that full integration of all we are. It's great doing the mindset learnings and the self-awareness and positivity, all that sort of thing. That's all fantastic, but if you don't do the emotional mastery side of it, then you're never going to get to the depths, because emotional mastery actually allows you to really access your heart. And in your heart is where your soul sits. And it's your soul that's crying out for that really deep depth of communication, of connection, and of self-value and self-important. So that's some depth on all of those issues that we have. Some of us have maybe a little bit of each of them. Some of them have one or two that are really, really strong. So you choose what it is that works for you and what part you need to look at. So ultimately, to communicate for the harmonious relationships, we have to take responsibility for our reactions, like to those external stimuli, to those activities that trigger us. Once we do this, we're then able to really hold our values in very strong, important clarity. Then if we've got really good clarity on our values, then we can action them with our boundaries, because it's really impossible to be authentically you without those two things, values and boundaries, happening really, really strongly. Now, the key to this is also, if we want to be strong in our purpose, then we have to be strong in our values and our boundaries, because they're all tied up together deep inside of us. And if we're not being the person, if you're being the person who's always saying yes to everybody, you're not valuing yourself. You're not setting your boundaries, and therefore your purpose is never going to happen, because your purpose in that situation is always to help somebody else. And purpose is about you. Purpose is about the internal you. So once we do that, we have to look at our preconceived expectations of a communication? Are we wanting it to turn out a certain way? Are we wanting it to actually happen in a certain way? Are we allowing the free flow of going backwards and forwards to find a really cohesive win-win answer? Now, obviously it takes two people to do that, but if we take responsibility for our side of it and have strong boundaries so we can speak our truth, then you're never going to lose. You might not, in a work situation, always get the outcome that you would see as beneficial. However, if you take the steps and you stick to being strong in what you want to say, how you say it, and value what it is that you have to offer, you're always going to feel good about it. It's because you feel good about what's inside and how you project that, not about what the external outcome is. The external outcome is just external. It's always about how you feel about what's inside of you and how you speak that, how you action it, and how you honor it within yourself. Obviously, learning emotional mastery is a really, really important key to this. As I said, all entrepreneurs who are truly successful have a really strong emotional intelligence factor. And what that means is they don't get stuck in emotions that make them stop or hesitate. They keep on going because of their emotional fluidity. And that's what we all want at some level. So I call it emotional mastery, and it's an ongoing journey. We're always on it. All right. So do you have any questions at all that I can help you with before we move on? You can see by this picture. Amanda, do you have a question? Great, Rebecca, no worries. Thank you. Yeah, great. Rebecca said great insight. Okay, so obviously from this picture you can see inner growth changes your reality. And sometimes, you know, we feel like the woman on the, I think it's on your left, the one without the tree in the head. And other times we feel very, very grounded and tree-like. And in that space, we can be non-reactionary. And that's really the key. If we can be responsive rather than reactive, that's a really big key. So one of the questions was, how do you deal with someone who's being aggressive? There's many, if you're feeling unsafe, then you walk away. If you're feeling that you're safe, then that's where you have to stand firm in your values and your boundaries and state what is okay and what is not okay. And if they can't respect that within you, then it's not a win-win situation, and an outcome may not be reached. So if they're being in your face aggressive and you're feeling unsafe in that situation, definitely walk away. If you value yourself, you won't stay there and allow that to be a part of your world. If they're being verbally or emotionally, mentally aggressive, then that's about saying what's okay for you and what's not. It's quite clearly stating what you said just then is not actually okay and it's disrespectful. Please don't do that again. Can we speak on a more open and what's the word I'm looking for? Can we speak on a more open and understanding platform? So everybody does this differently. You've got to find your own way, and sometimes it takes a bit of practice to do that. But if you're not afraid of anger, then you can do that in the moment, because you don't get reactive. You don't match aggression with aggression or anger with anger. You just see it for what it is, and then step into your power and go, no, not okay. Moving on. Thank you very much. I hope that helps, Amanda. Cool. Excellent. All right. So we're nearly come to the end. So I want to just let you know how I can help you if you are looking to get some help to do this. I'm offering a really amazing do-it-yourself workshop, which is a series of recordings for you to work through. So this workshop is the Introduction to Emotional Mastery series. And it's a really great way to get started, to learn how to use your emotional intelligence in a really constructive way, not only in your life generally, but particularly in your relationship communication. So this link that we have here is the link to the page where you can go and explore more about that. It's actually really, really cheap. It's only $97, and you get 4 recordings that are full of amazing information that will, if you action it, will really change your life. And to let you know, if you register before the 8th of November, you do get a free meditation included in that, which helps you to really connect in with your energy and clean it up so that you can be really present. So that link is there for you. And you will also get this link tomorrow in the email that will come out as well. Now, if you're really confused and you don't know if the Introduction to Emotional Mastery really is for you, or if you need something different, I'm offering you a free chat. So there'll be a link in the email that's coming out to you where you can book in a 20-minute free chat with me. And all that is about is for you to get really clear on what it is that is holding you back in your communication, or anything else that you feel is not working for you, so that we can actually figure out if I've got something to offer you in regards to making some big changes. So please take up the offer of the free chat. I'd love to find out, at least help you to get a little bit clearer about that sort of thing. And you know, these things are actually, let's call them a Christmas gift for you, because in that Christmas gift, on you working on your emotional mastery, you're actually gifting the people that you love with a far better version of you. Imagine if you went through Christmas without getting triggered by the family dramas that go on, the emotions that get thrown around the place. It's just such a typical time of year when all of that happens. So this could just be your Christmas gift just for you. Okay. So as I said, as a registered attendee to this webinar, you will get an email tomorrow with the link with the recording, and that will have all that information on it, and you can download that recording and keep it and re-listen to it just to get the nuggets of gold out of it, and see where you're stuck in certain issues. Okay. So basically, thank you so much for attending. I hope you've had a good time, and I hope you got a lot out of this. If you have any thoughts or anything, please feel free to email me and let me know what you thought. And just to let you know, we've got another, I do these webinars every month. So the next webinar, which will be on the 4th of December, is how we respond to people or opinions with which we fundamentally disagree. So it's another communication style, but it's going to be much deeper than that. So keep an eye out in your email box, because you'll get an email beforehand so that you can register for that one. So check out what the blurb is on it so you can see what detail you'll get from that. So thank you so much for being with me tonight. And it's been an absolute pleasure sharing with you. And I will see you hopefully next month. Feel free to email me at any time. Bye for now.